When one does not get attached to the objects of sense or to the works and has renounced all purposes, then he is said to have attained to yoga. This verse answers the questions of how one can become yoga-rura, the state described by Shri Krishna in the last verse, which means one who has attained to yoga. 3 qualifications are necessary, and God sums them up. The first qualification is the last word on the first line, which is indriyashu anushajjate, not being attached to the objects of sense. The senses always run after the objects. The tongue always runs after good taste. The eyes always run towards things or people with a beautiful appearance. That is, running towards things that sound nice. If all these senses are running after objects and one becomes attached to these objects, then they won't be able to develop. A person can only become yoga-rura when he doesn't become attached to the objects of senses. Astavakaji, Maharishi Astavakaji, says to Janak, who was the father of Sita, Muktim ichasi chitaha vishayan vishva vattajata. O Janak, if you wish to attain liberation, then you must leave sense objects as if they are poison. He has made a comparison between sense objects and poison. He says that sense objects are even worse than poison. The reason for this is that poison only kills a person when he drinks it and lets it go inside his body, whereas sense objects do not need to go inside a person. They can still, a person doesn't even need to make contact with them. A person just dies worrying about them. A person does not die thinking about poison, whereas a person can die thinking about sense objects. When a person is always thinking about sense objects, and whether he gets to enjoy them or not, worries related to the sense objects kill the person. Secondly, poison only kills the body of the person. If someone drinks poison, then his body made up of the 5 gross elements, earth, water, fire, ether and wind, that passes away. But sense objects stay with the subtle body comprising of the mind, intellect, consciousness and ego, which we call the antakaran, and affect him residing within the body, not just for one birth, but for many births. A person just becomes lost in thinking about sense objects. Muktam ichasi chitaha vishan vishavata. If you want to attain liberation, you must stay away from sense objects as if they are poison. A person who does not become attached to sense objects, who is not attracted to sense objects, and who does not dance because of sense objects, gets the first qualification needed to attain to yoga. Second qualification, karmasu anushate, which is in the second line, not become attached to works. The word anushate applies both to the first line and the second line of this 4th verse, both after indriyasu and karmasu, so both in the first line and the second line. The second qualification is that one does not become attached to works. Because he doesn't get attached to works, the consequences is that he does not become attached to the fruits of works. The third quality is sarva sankalpa samyasi, in the third line, a person who has renounced all purposes. You must understand the meaning of the word sannyasi. Anyone know? Sannyasi? It means nyas in sannyasi, it means to give up. And samnyas, sam means beautiful. So someone who gives up in a good or beautiful way is a sannyasi. This is a person who has renounced all purposes. Now when he performs works, he doesn't perform them for himself. He performs works for the common good. The saints from Maharashtra say, Ata rahilo upakara purta. The karmas, actions we perform are not for ourselves. We're living for an obligation to society and an obligation to God. These saints are living because of their obligation to God. This is because they renounce all purposes. Such a person who climbs these 3 steps can be someone who has attained to yoga-rura, attained to yoga. Who can make us yoga-rura by helping us climb these steps? We do not even know the 3 steps, let alone climbing them. We do not know what these steps are, in what those steps are, and where those steps are. Who can help us climb them? Shri Krishna tells us in the 5th verse.